Welcome back to Cornerstone Live. My name is Mackenzie Smith, and I'm a consultant here at Cornerstone Data.
And I'm Joy Akins. I'm the president of the company.
We're back with Analysis of Per Aspera and Ad Astra Part 2. Today, we're looking at some best practices demonstrated by 2 other states that demonstrate these ideas about data maturity. To recap, in our last video, we discussed how we assess an organization's data maturity level. Joy, can you give us a quick overview of how we gauge these levels of data maturity?
Sure. In our last video, we looked at some of these core components that demonstrate data maturity. Specifically, we looked at accuracy, transparency, usability, and communication. When any organization has these core components present, it will lead to collaboration and innovation. And for more details on data maturity, our viewers can look at our Part 1 video.
So we have been watching and researching other states to see what their leaders have put in place to guide their citizens through this pandemic. What are some examples from some of the states we've watched that demonstrate a level of data maturity?
Well, we're going to start with Ohio, of all places. We look at a lot of different states and look at a lot of different things they're doing. And earlier in fact, about July this year, we started looking at Ohio. They've established a color-coded public health advisory system designed to assess the degree of COVID spread and the degree of emergency in an area so they can engage and empower their community to take action. And their color-coded system, which was established in July, is fairly remarkable. It's unlike most of the ones we see. It's not based on 1 or 2 numbers on a specific day or in a week. They've created 10 indicators. Those 10 indicators look at things like case data, symptoms, hospitalizations, and then contact tracing and testing data. Now, 3 of their indicators down here at the bottom are still under development because they don't have all the data they need, but that's what they're working on getting. But the other 7 are pretty robust. They look at trends over time to trigger their status. Each indicator is based on a look-back period of 21 days. So they have 1 week of reasonably complete data and 2 weeks of more recent data. And then the state counts the number of indicators that are met and assigns the color based on what's met. So I don't get a color for every single one and then have to figure out how to put them together. They put that there. So after they defined this advisory system, Ohio created a data dashboard where all 7 indicators are shared by county are on the same page. And it's refreshing right now, but I can look up a county. Let's say I want to look up Harrison County down here. I can just search for them. And it's going to bring up the county. They're orange, and then each of the 7 indicators is shown, and it tells me whether that indicator is met or it's BD visits if it's not met. I can also hover over the infos on the page, and it'll tell me what that indicator is and why it was met in that area. And you can also see here they're using color. So for example, for new case increase, they're looking at 5 consecutive days of onset date over the last 3 weeks of increasing trend. And so they've highlighted it for us. Oh, this is where those 5 days have gone up. So even though they've started to come down, until they see that trend go away for real, they're not going to change the color for that county. And so it gives them some look back periods. See, they also have resources located at the bottom of the report explaining to the audience what those colors are. And then at the very bottom, I can go really pull up that summary alert file that I had and really go in and get all the data definitions and the overview and the guidance based on what color I'm at. Another great thing about this dashboard is they have a downloadable version. So I can I forgot to mention this. So they store this by published date. So I can see where Harrison County is today, but I can also go back and look and see how they got there. So I can pick the 5th of November, a month ago, and see where they were at then. They were orange and what their stats looked like and watch that over time. And another great thing about this dashboard is they have a downloadable version. So when I click to download the CSV version, which is like an Excel file in a lot of ways, that's going to give me all the data for the entire graphic, including the published date. So I can go back and, as an analyst, do my own analysis on the data that's there. And then, of course, they also allow their users to pull a PNG, which is an image snapshot of the dashboard at any point in time, so people can have that as well.
So based on what you have shown here, it looks like Ohio's use of data is allowing them to empower their leaders in managing this pandemic.
You're right. Just at a high level here, we can see that they have several things going for them. There's transparency in how they're measuring things. There's usability for all different levels of audience, and there's a really great communication tool here.
So we've also seen our neighbors to the east exhibiting such great collaboration amongst their departments during this pandemic. Joy, how has Missouri demonstrated this?
Well, we were pleasantly surprised by Missouri's Show Me Strong dashboards. One of the difficulties in managing this pandemic is that all the data shared is usually about the disease spread, deaths, hospitalizations, tests. And it's hard to understand the total impact to a community when only one area of data is being reviewed. Only a handful of states are collaborating between departments to show how the pandemic is impacting the community's health, economy, and societal framework. And this is where the Show Me state is really showing their skills. They've got a data dashboard here that includes 3 major areas for people to understand. So we'll walk through a few of these. On their social impact page, they state that the dashboards are a cross-government effort to bring data about COVID-19 in Missouri. This data isn't about COVID case numbers, but about the health and safety of citizens in Missouri, as well as the economy. And it helps provide citizens and leaders some additional context to understand how the decisions they're making are impacting their community. We'll walk through a couple of them. As we do, just note that Missouri announced their stay-at-home orders on April 3rd, and as you look at the data, you'll see that dip in what occurred when they did that. So we're going to start by looking at mental health crisis. This is one piece of data that they have. They indicate in the gray what last year's numbers were, the percent, and then what this year's numbers are. They also have a display by age, gender, and race, which is really helpful, and several different areas of mental crisis can be looked at. Above that, we can see they've also shown the number of calls to a lifeline. This is for suicide prevention when people are in desperate need and they need help. And you can see that in October, the calls to the lifeline were up 20% over last year. Social impact, these social impacts dashboards also include things like nutrition, safety, and also communities. And that there's a wealth of information on those. Let's also look at the economic recovery that they have. There's several different tabs here as well, but we'll highlight a few. One is unemployment rates. We can see where Missouri has been historically since the beginning of this year with unemployment. They've also plotted, and of course it's refreshing right now, but they've also plotted the highest rate during the Great Recession for the US and Missouri, and then they've plotted themselves against it. So you can see that they're beginning to return, but they haven't quite reached where they were back in January. But below that, we can also begin to see what industries are continuing to struggle with job loss over January 2020. So for example, accommodations and food, there's a negative 46,000 in employment over January. And then in construction, we have an increase of 9,600. So there may be some rebounding going on there for the time being. On their second tab, they have data about small businesses. So for example, they have a percent change in small business revenue, which is really helpful. And the number, and then they also down here have the number of layoffs. So they have WARN notices, which is notices that companies they're legal documents that companies have to put together and file if they know they're going to lay off within 30 days. And so they include the number of WARN notices and then the employees affected by those. So these two sets of data are in addition to a fairly robust set of public health data, including data by school district. And we don't have time to look at that, but we'll leave the link in our website so people can go find it.
So it seems to me that there is very strong collaboration between the departments for Missouri to have this kind of data reporting.
Right, Missouri and actually Ohio too have both won awards for their use of technology and data to empower citizens. It really shows that they've been doing this because when the pandemic hit, Missouri took reports that their department leaders have already been using. Some of these reports have been around for 10 years and they made them available to the public in an easy to digest way. But they go a step beyond just making them available. They also have some other key elements that show they understand their audience. For one, they have open communication. So on all of their dashboards at the top, they have a place where you can click and send an email to the governor's office and ask your question about data in Missouri. They also have an FAQ here, and this FAQ covers lots of the different dashboards that they have. And one of the things we love as analysts about this is they give an update if something's changed to the dashboard. So for example, on December 3rd, they were notified about a reporting issue, and then they publish that information here. So people looking at the data, if they see there's something off, they know what to do to solve it. And then it looks like from their past history, when they resolve it, they will put something here so people know it's resolved. And I think that's really key. That's something we've talked about a lot in Kansas, where data changes, we don't know why. We've brought up issues that were then fixed, but we didn't know when, it wasn't updated. There's no place to find that information out. And then the icing on the cake at Missouri is all of this data is downloadable. I mean, there's just a page where you can go and download all of the data. You can download it by clicking here, or you can go down here in their actual Tableau. They've put tables in, and at the bottom of that, you can say, I want to download, and you can pull that data or a crosstab of that data. And they actually do this on many of their visuals as well inside the dashboard, where they allow you to download the data. Now, this is a Tableau tool, which is the same tool that Kansas uses, but in our case, in Kansas, we only have PDF, PowerPoint, and image enabled. Whereas in Missouri, they've enabled data and crosstab, which is a way to be able to download that data and use it very quickly.
As an analyst, it's a breath of fresh air to see an organization utilizing their data to inform their citizens. They are giving their audience the opportunity to perform their own analysis, providing open communication between government officials and the public, and keeping people up to date on changes that have been made. Joy, I appreciate you very much. Thanks for attending this Zoom meeting. Please make sure to check out our website at www.cornerstonedata.com for more analysis on COVID-19, and be on the lookout for our blog post following this live that includes the websites we have discussed today. We are so close to 500 likes on our Facebook, so when you see our smiling faces, please like our page and share with your friends. This has been Analysis of Per Aspera and Ad Astra Part 2. Signing off from Cornerstone Data. We'll see you next time.